Welcome, everybody. It is 1:31, so the faster we get started, the faster we can finish up. It is exciting to have everybody here all together. It rarely happens. We have very few training days throughout the year. So like I said, I know you can't please all the people all the time, but since we had this chunk of time, we thought it'd be the best time to do the Newline Engage for everyone. So there's something new for everyone. And then at around 3 o'clock, as said, I told my high school teachers, as long as we're all well behaved. So by 3 o'clock, we should be moving into the Q&A. So if you do have a board, save those questions till the end, because Kate, our lovely presenter today, is going to stay to the bitter end. So if you have questions on anything functional, we'll save that until 3 o'clock. So we're going to start with new information, and she might give just a little bit of an overview for those of you who do not have a board in your room right now. But Lord willing and the creek don't rise, everybody will have one next year. So yes, amen to that. So we all know it is the first day back from spring break, and I do want you to be engaged with your laptop when Kate directs you. But let's just give her our full attention since she is coming here to train us. And I told her we have the best staff on the planet. So let's give Kate a great CCA welcome. And we do have Hollywood live. I know they had some issues this morning, so hopefully our streaming line, everything's going well in Hollywood. So we have them online with us as well.
Perfect.
Take it away, Kate.
All right. Welcome, everybody. My name is Kate. I am from Newline. So I'm not just some random person that they picked up. Please know if you have any questions at any point in time, like obviously today, like ask questions, but like 3 weeks from now, or you get a student teacher and you're like, bless their heart, I do not have time to train them. They're adorable, but I just have no time for this. We are with you. You can actually get free tech support and free training for the life of your product. So just know that, like you're never alone. We're with you all the time now. And I'll make sure you guys have my cell phone number and stuff like that. I do take text messages. I know not always when you have 20 sets of eyes staring at you at the, in a classroom can be like, hold on everybody, let me make a phone call. But sometimes you can like pull up your phone, take a quick little snapshot and be like, I remember you told me I could do this. Where do I click? Help me now. And then I can just circle where to click and text you back and life will be fantastic. So I do like to throw that out there. Everything that we're going to talk about is also going to be online. We have a pretty robust user training resources area. So we have a YouTube channel, 1 minute, 2 minute, 3 minute videos, things like that. Yes, you can always go to our website and register for training, but sometimes you don't want to listen to me drone on for 60 minutes or more because you don't have time for that. Nobody's got time for that these days. Just a quick show of hands, who does not have a panel yet? Oh. Fun! This is going to be exciting. All right. I'm just going to throw this out there right now, just for folks that don't have a panel. Do not be afraid of it. It is extremely robust. They can take a hit. I don't know why people tell me when they have a bad day, they have thrown staplers at our panels. Don't know why. I know, right? This is all right. We're in a paperless world. And yet, for some odd reason, when somebody gets angry, that red swing line will appear and they will throw it at the panel. But I have had adults and kids that have had behavioral moments, just there it is. But bounces off, takes it like a champ. So when you do get your panel, please do not be afraid of it. That's going to be the number one thing I'll tell you. And then don't be afraid to go into settings. Go around the block and meet the neighbors. Usually the questions I get have to do with settings. But we are going to start off with Newline Engage, which is our cloud-based whiteboarding platform. It's also lesson creation. Take it wherever you want to go with it. Whatever works best for you, absolutely okay. Everybody leverages this just a little bit differently. Whether or not you have a panel right now, you actually do have access to Newline Engage Cloud. So this is something that everybody can kind of dive in from day one. 3 ways you can actually access Newline Engage Cloud because everything with Newline has options. Usually by the end of training sessions, people want to spit in my eye because I'm going to give you so many options. But everybody moves around technology different. What's your jam is not somebody else's. And based on your students, your curriculum, and then just, I'll say, the general geography of your classroom and where you have things set up, you just need to do different stuff. So we're all about options. So you do have the option. I can see it was removed, though. So I don't know if somebody's going to throw a tomato at me. If you're like, that's not an option, just tell me. There is a browser on the board. Do you guys that have panels see a browser button? Yes. Okay, I just want to make sure, because every once in a while things get removed and I'm not supposed to talk about them, and I forgot to ask about that. I like to come in and just dig up worms. But generally, your browser button is going to be right here. It has a little globe and it says browser. Newline Engage Cloud is a cloud-based platform, so you can access it online. So you can go to your browser and be like, I want to go to Engage, and life is great. The other option you have, because we live in the world where there's an app for that, there is a Newline Engage Cloud app. And you can run that app directly from your panel, which is really nice. I'll say, if you're going to be creating something, you may not do it from the app on the panel because this is a lot of real estate. So you're going to do a lot of reaching. I don't know what kind of shoulder function you have, but I'll say after reaching for about 3 hours trying to drag stuff in and create a lesson, you might get a little tired. But no, you can go into apps. If you scroll down, you are going to see a box that says Newline. It's kind of ombre, it's purple, blue, and pink. If you tap that, you're going to be in the Newline Engage App Store. So you can just search. I went back. Let me go back. I searched for Engage. There's a little glass here. And boop, there's our Newline Engage Cloud app. Have you guys that have panels, has anybody gone into the Newline App Store? What? I like the confidence. This is wonderful over here. Like, yes, you're committed. The most committed wins. But yes, go in. It takes a lot to mess one of these up, people. Like, let me tell you, you can do a factory reset in 10 minutes. Like, if you really make a whoopsie, you call me up and be like, I did it. It happened to me. You need to help me now. That's okay. 8 minutes, 10 minutes down the line, it's like your panel just came out of the box. Very forgiving. What could possibly go wrong? I don't know, but we're going to find out. So we're going to pop into our Newline Engage Cloud. There's all sorts of things in the App Store, like search around, see if there's something that you like. If you find something, all you have to do is hit install. I'll say that simple. We'll see if anything's been installed. Every once in a while, you might get a little like pop-up ding-dong message that's like, you need to allow, and you have the option to go into settings and toggle allow. If you're like, oh, I know she said something weird was going to happen, but I can't remember what I have to do, take a picture, text me, and be like, what do I push? And then I will help you. So just know that. But you can download things straight to the panel. So just know that, but I'm not going to wait on that one. So I'm going to pop back home. And we're going to go in through a computer because that's the third way that you can access Newline Engage Cloud. So when you're getting your computer hooked up, you have the option to hardwire your computer in. So you have USB-C ports, you have HDMI ports. If it's a USB-C port, remember USB-C is just one cable because it'll transfer your audio, visual, touch. Front one also does charging too. So if you like plug your computer, you can just kind of forget about it all day long. Your HDMI ports, it's 2 cables. HDMI will transfer your audio and visual, and then the USB transfers the touch. So I just plunked in my ops unit, so we are in my computer. Newline Engage is accessible from our main website, so I'm going to show you where you can find it, but you're going to get all this information, so don't feel like you have to remember all this. We'll send you the kind of the direct link into it, and then you can save it. But it is software, so from Newline, you just go into software and Newline Engage Cloud, okay? Here is your landing page. So you're gonna create your account, you can do sign on. Are you guys Google, Microsoft? Okay, so you can link to Google and you do you, however you feel like you wanna get signed in is absolutely okay. So you can link it all together. You have a couple of different options here. You have some buttons. So teacher mode is probably, if I was a betting person, I'd bet 3 out of 4 limbs. Teacher mode is probably where you're going to spend the bulk of your time. Teacher mode is going to be your lesson creation mode. And if you invite your students to teacher mode, they will get a copy of whatever you do. They will not be able to mess up your original. They're so helpful, but you don't want them working on your original. So teacher mode is probably where most people are going to be hanging out. If you like to roll the dice and you are that person that's like, what's the worst that could happen? What could go wrong? You can go into collaborate mode. For those, is anybody in here a Jamboarder? A few. You roll the dice. You're like, what could happen? Yeah, you're like, they're great. What grade do you have? Oh, okay. They're sweet and innocent. I didn't see, is there anybody that uses Jamboard on the high school or especially the middle school side? I'm trying, yeah. Middle school is my favorite. When I was a terrible substitute, don't get me wrong, but middle school is my jam. Everything is dramatic. Like, everything can happen all the time. You're just like, wow, all the energy. Sometimes it's a little dark, but it's a lot of energy. So I can work with that. You can mold that. But collaborate mode is essentially going to be like Jamboard. Everybody's working together on the same pages, so if you create something, they are going to mess up your original. So just know that. And then manage is where you can manage your boards, because anytime you create a board, it actually gets stored automatically in your library. So if you just want to go into your library, you can just hit manage. But we're going to go ahead and we're going to enter teacher mode. So we're going to pop in here, maybe. Come on, little friend. Which is funny because we were just in there. I know, right? So usually when I'm doing training on my panel, oh, there we go. I'm not going to whack yours because I don't want to give anybody a heart attack, but I will like wind up and whack mine. So they get hit all the time. It really is amazing what they can do. And this is a new pop back in. But yeah, no, there we go. We had a semi that actually turned over, and it had 42 86-inch panels. The semi was totaled. The panels were thrown off their pallets, out of their boxes, and were scattered across the highway. 41 out of 42 turned on and were fine. So when I say these panels can really take a hit, like, I'm not kidding. They actually can really take a hit. And so we'll see. Come on. There we go. Back to here. All right, all my stuff is loading. There we go. And let me get this up and out of the way. All right. So now we are in the Engage platform. Can everybody see the red okay, or is there not enough contrast? Not enough contrast? It's okay? All right. I'll say your board color will follow your pen color, but you can turn that feature on and off. So when it comes to the Engage platform, we're just kind of looking at the landing page here. Take everything at face value. I'll say everything when it comes to the panel. I always say the panel's a little bit like Amelia Bedelia. It's going to do exactly what it's told for those that read those books. Now, you've been warned. It is going to do exactly what it's told, but don't overthink it. So you guys have worked in whiteboarding platforms, before. Pens are going to be pens, highlighters, text boxes, all of that stuff is going to behave how it behaves in any other platform. Like, nobody's trying to reinvent the wheel. A lasso's a lasso, et cetera. So just know that. But when you come in, kind of the grand scheme of Newline, anytime you see 3 lines or 3 dots, think Goldilocks and the 3 bears. You have options to try out, see what works for you. Porridge hot, porridge cold, I don't know, let's find out. But just know, definitely tap things when you see 3 lines and 3 dots. Over on the left side is where we're going to start. These are going to be your general tools, so kind of the meat of what you're going to be creating. So of course, right away, you have your drawing tool options. Anytime you see that little arrow, of course, you have more options. For those, all of you know you can use anything wooden or plastic, right? Okay. If you didn't know, anything wooden or plastic does work as a stylus on the panel. Which is fantastic, because I'm not even going to lie, I don't like our pens. They just don't feel right. I don't know if anybody out there has like a pen that's your pen, and then somebody steals it, and then you have to grab another pen, and it just doesn't feel right, and you're like, oh, this isn't the right pen. Yeah, but you can see how responsive it is. So it is, say, quick to respond, which is great. You're not going to have to worry about lag or anything of that sort. You can adjust everything, just FYI. But drawing tools are exactly what you can expect them to be. So you have your lines, you have your free pen, all that kind of great stuff, shapes, all those different types of things. It just keeps kind of going over, and the polygons you're going to have, options that you can set up for whatever it is that works for you. So just know that. I'm going to add another page down here. Your writing tools. This is where it starts to get a little bit more robust. You have more options. Click and type is going to be a general text box, which is really great. Say any of your text boxes, you can move around, you can make them movable. For folks that are in language arts especially, maybe you're doing prefixes and suffixes, so you could have your base word, and then you could use the text boxes to create a bunch of prefixes, suffixes, past tense, whatever it may be, and students can start doing drag and drop and moving things around. So anything in a text box, that entire box is mobile. So just know everything in here you can animate. With the formatted text, the rich text, I always say those are kind of like Word documents. You have a little bit more option in that. Handwriting, so that's going to be your handwrite to text. So it'll predict whatever it is that you're going to choose, and you can choose your default font. So if I go into handwrite, as I start writing, it's going to predict whatever it is that I've chosen. So just know that. So you do have that ability. Going into writing as well, your math editors and equation solvers. So who are my math teachers? You guys always sit together. I can show you things, I can't solve any of your problems. So just know that if you need help, I can show you fun things, I just can't do it. I went into a classroom and I'm like, what's everybody's obsession with dominoes? Because I had no idea what Common Core was. That's what it was called, right? Common Core? Okay, I don't know. Seriously, I have no idea. I was like, why are there these weird dominoes? Or that rock game, I couldn't figure out what the obsession was. And we're doing math, and I'm like, I don't know what you kids are talking about. This is how you do it, which is kind of interesting. But know that you have a lot of options specifically for math that you can start layering with some of the math tools. If you hit manual grade, that's going to pull in for when you guys start getting connected with your students. I always giggle because if you do manual grade and you write on any of their pages, it's like the dun, 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 red ink, which I'm always like, oh, little buddy, you tried so hard, and then you get the red ink of doom. But I just let people know that. You could choose any other color to write, but if you do manual grade, it is going to switch over to that. The speech to text button is surprisingly accurate. So if you're somebody that does like to do speech to text, especially when you're developing things, because it's just quicker as you can start dragging other stuff in, it is really good. So anybody out there that's has been a victim of Siri, and you're doing voice to text, and then your friends are like, are you having a stroke? And you're like, no, I'm not. And then it's like, call 911. This one is much better. I apparently have a weird accent, don't know why, but I do, and Siri always gets it wrong. Apparently it recognizes our dog's voice, which I didn't know until we were in the car, and I was voice to texting and just lose and loser. And that's apparently what his bark sounds like. I didn't know. But anyways, the speech to text is really good. So I am going to say you're going to be pleasantly surprised compared to some of the other speech to text things that are out there. So you guys will like that. Basic text editor and post-it notes. The basic text editor is probably one of my favorite things because you can layer it. And I'll show you what that means in a few minutes. But lots of options in here. You really just have to get in and play around. We're going to go through everything so you kind of have a good layout of where to go and what to do. Erasing, pretty basic. Object eraser and whiteout. All right, what more do you need? So there we go. Uploading is where it starts to get a little bit more exciting now. So you can upload files from your computer. So if you have any PDFs, if you have any worksheets, if you have any files that you want to bring in, I do want to let you know, as of right now, if you are, I'm going to go to the one down below it, if you're importing something from Google Drive, and I'm going to say especially if it is slides. So all right, so this is where you do you. I always, with anything, I'm just here to give you options. But if you have a lot of stuff already created in Google Slides and you like the way it works and it's exactly how you want it, yes, you can bring it in here. But if you already have it where you want it, why reinvent the wheel? So I'm just going to throw that out there. I'm not telling you to redo everything because nobody's got time for that. But if you did want to bring something in from Google, by all means you can. You can bring in your docs and sheets and all that kind of good stuff. They are currently working that when you bring in slides that all of those movable features will transfer over. But this is a new platform, so that's right now in development. So that's why I say if you have something in slides and you like the movable features and it's already set up the way you want it, don't reinvent the wheel, leave it there. And that's fine. And I'll give you some tips and tricks for writing in Google and annotating in Google that will make your life better. But no, you can bring in there. Bingo, myfreebingocards.com. Has anybody ever been there? Okay, it is a fabulous website. You can custom make any bingo cards that you want. So works great for any subject or anything like that. They have a whole bunch of pre-created things, capitals, things for math, all sorts of different subjects. But myfreebingocards.com, and I'll make sure you guys have all these websites. But you can upload a link, your students click the link, and then it will create a bingo card especially for them. So as you're going through and doing stuff, I use that a lot when I'm teaching different courses and things like that, and it's phenomenal. If anybody in here is like a coding teacher and you have APK packages for like gameplay, and that's as far as I can go with what that means, but for my coding teachers, you're like, yes, I know exactly what that means. You can upload gameplay. Liveworksheets.com with an S. Has anybody gone there? Yeah, they have thousands of things. It's just nice. Don't reinvent the wheel. Somebody may have already done it, and you can just, hop on the wagon, and there you go. You got a free ride. But liveworksheets.com, you can add in links. The worksheet will open up. You can grab things. You can download stuff. But it's one of the ones that we do kind of talk about. Of course, you can bring in photos, video, audio components from your computer if you wanted to do that. There's something called the phone scanner. So this is pretty handy. So you can go ahead and you can open up the camera on your phone, and I'm going to just give this a little scan. And now I can scan anything that I want in the environment and instantly upload it. So it gives your whatever device you're scanning with, whether it's a tablet or a phone, it's essentially an instant document camera. I'll say a lot of you go on really amazing trips that tie into the subject matter that you teach, but teachers have fun. You guys get out there, like you need to relax and kick back a little bit too, but maybe you want to share a couple of pictures with your students, but you don't want to share the album because they don't need to know how much fun you really have when you're not in school. So you can go ahead and you can pick just certain photos from your library if you want to, and you can go ahead and upload those, which is nice. So you can go through, say, pretty much instantaneously and do whatever it is that you may want to add things in. So I'm going to go ahead and close this, but I can upload, and we'll start bringing it in. I'm going to go to a next page, though. One thing before I move on when it comes to upload. Upload files from computer. There it is. If you are running this straight from your panel, it's going to bring files from your panel. So if you're running it from the browser on the panel or the app, that is not your computer. And so just know they're not going to have that conversation. So if you're running this from your computer, it will pull from your computer. If you're running it from your panel, it's going to pull from your panel. So just FYI on that. I do like to, to point that out, but you can see I've got my photo in here. I'm going to add just another page here. Going into tools. So this is where you can start layering things. Breakdown tool from a math people especially. You have something that can be broken down into parts. Hit it with the breakdown tool to break down into its parts. If you are working with currency, is anybody in here a foreign language instructor? Okay, so if you're teaching foreign language, a lot of times you talk about currencies. You can hit the currency with the breakdown tool and it'll break it down into its parts, and you can just keep going, which is kind of handy. Because maybe you're like, you've been there and you have all the money and you can bring it in and it's fabulous, but sometimes you don't. So you can do that. So I like to point out that one. Grids, these are going to be all of your backgrounds. I know in the whiteboard on the home screen, the embedded whiteboard on the panel, you can change the background. There's a grid, there's primary paper, all that kind of stuff. You have a lot more options in here, though, so just know that. So especially for my middle and high school, just the grid options, are very nice. I'm going to go ahead and grab my college line paper here. I can go back into my text. This is where that basic text editor actually comes in really handy, because I can go in and write online and then go to the next. And it'll just follow suit, which is really handy. And of course, you can change your font and how it looks. But if you have students that need to do essays, if you want to put something in there, whatever it may be, know that you can layer that basic text editor over grids and things like that. So And say if you're type A, that's usually something that you're going to like. If you're not, then it doesn't matter. But just know you do have that option. In here, another one that I want to highlight, even though we don't have any animations, is your pause animations. You can animate anything that you bring into the platform. So if you're a biology instructor and maybe you're talking about DNA and you're starting to bring the strands together, you can have them animate. You can have them where students actually have to clone them and animate them and bring them together correctly. If you're talking about mammals and you can have a whole bunch of animals down at the bottom and you want them to start grouping or whatever it may be. If you have things moving behind you like this, sometimes you want to pause those animations because that can just be a lot for students to look at. Remember, your pause animations is in tools, and I'll bring that up again, but I like to talk about it because that's usually something as you get going and start doing more of this stuff, you're like, oh my goodness, where is it? Chattel, that's another one that I definitely like to bring up. Is anybody in here a Wordle fan? Okay, a couple folks. If you're a Wordle fan, Chattel is Wordle. But the great thing about Chattel is you can actually create your own word. So whatever 5-letter word works for you. So if you have a vocab word, just something that ties into your unit, your lesson, it does not matter. If you have a word of the day, you can go ahead and you can create your own. Now I will tell you, we do have our own library, but it comes on good authority. So we have another trainer named Sam. She covers the Midwest. She was an 8th grade English professor, and she said that our library is actually surprisingly difficult. She's like, it's way harder than regular Wordle. So you know your students, you know what they can handle, but just know you can create your own, and that's just fine. So as you create whatever word you want, it's going to look just like regular Chattel, like nothing different from there. But some of the nice things you can do, first things first, I'll say first thing in the morning, your students are coming in, you're doing last-minute emails. For the elementary school kids, especially like somebody shows up and they have one shoe and you're like, I know your parents, they sent you out of the house with 2 shoes. What happened to the other one? And you're trying to figure out what's going on. You're doing attendance and everything else. You could have a Chattel pulled up and they could start guessing and working with it. The other thing you can do is you can layer a lot of this stuff. So I'm going to go into thumbnail view. If you are somebody that likes slides or PowerPoint and you like to see all your slides, well, what you can do is you can actually password protect any of your pages. So maybe you have a riddle on the first page, or you have an equation. You have a definition and somebody's got to come up with the word, and that's what the Chattel is. That could be the password for page 2. So now you can start password protecting and making things a little bit more of a game as they go through. They have to guess right in order to move on. And if they guess wrong, it's not going to open up the page, so they know they got to go back to the drawing board. So you can start doing different things like that, which is kind of nice. So I do like to point that out. That's one area where I'll say Chattel gets used quite a bit, and that again is in tools. Everything else down here is exactly what you would expect. Your selection tool is just like if you needed a mouse, move and resize, all that kind of good stuff. Lasso tool is a lasso tool, and pan, just being able to move. Basic tools. Doing okay? All right. So it's what you would expect, like nothing crazy, which is fantastic. Now as we go across the top here, I'm just going to hit this, and there we go, get rid of it. This is going to be your board information. So as we go across the top, you are going to see your board name. Right now we have an unnamed board. I don't care if you name your board trash board. Please name your boards, because when you go into your library, every time you create something, it's going to be unnamed unsaved board number 73 with a date and a timestamp. And if you can remember all of that, you're doing very good. I cannot. So just know whether it's, history period 1 or whatever it may be, or just a playboard, it can behoove you to name everything. So just know that. General function kind of across the top here, your writing tools, things like that. You do have the option that you can share things directly with each other. So if you wanted to send a copy of a board, if somebody creates something and we're like, hey, I know you're going to be popping into this lesson or this unit next, here's the one I created, take it, make it your own. You can adjust it, whatever you want to do, you can do that. We also have community boards. Our servers just got put together for a community board. So you can submit any lessons to the community. Everybody from the Newline family can start sharing across the country. So we do have community boards. Student reports and things like that, and we'll get into where you can find that stuff. You're going to have a code for every board. You have lots of ways to get into your board. This is how you can invite folks. So that code will get you into the board. You can see that here, so you can share the code. If anybody out there, this is where you guys can hop in so you can actually see this on your laptops. Scan in. You can go ahead, go to newline-engage.com, enter in the board code. As you get connected, we're going to see people's information, or if you have, a Bitmoji and all that kind of stuff is going to pop up. You can link lessons to your classroom. So if you create something ahead of time, you can link it to your classroom. Students can go in, they can work on it. You have options to lock pages, password protect, like we talked about. You can also time them out. So if they have to complete something by the end of the day or by the next class period, you can lock that board down at a certain time so they can't get back in. I always say, I don't know if some of you look very young, so you may not have had to do this, but when I was growing up, if you took a test or a quiz or something, you did it on paper. We had that. It was great. With a pencil that you had to sharpen manually. And you wanted to have a good sharpener, you had the one that was kind of wonky and your lead was going to pop out. But you hoped when you were going to grade that the person usually 2 to your left or 2 to your right had a crush on you. Because they'd be like, oh no, you really meant B, I remember that. Because we would grade each other's papers. Well, now you can lock it down and nobody can do that anymore. So I'll say students now have it really hard. They don't get to have all the fun that we did. But this is how you can get your students connected. So they can scan in. You can send out the link to anybody, which is fantastic. You can give them the class code, so they can just go to Newline Engage, enter in the class code, link it to your classroom. If anybody does Teams, I'll say from a faculty standpoint, you can do it there. And you also have a show co-teacher invite. So if you do have a substitute teacher, not like if you're in the emergency room, you'd be like, hold on a second, I got to invite Mrs. Jones to my lesson or she's not going to be able to teach tomorrow. Yeah, no. But if you know ahead of time, I will say, sometimes you know that you're going to be gone and you may know who's going to be your substitute because it's planned, which is fabulous. You will be able to send it directly to them versus leaving 3 or 4 pages of well-written instructions for us to lock your computer for the next year. You're never getting back in, just for us to try and survive. Like, it's movie day. We're just going to, keep all of our fingers and toes today, and then I'm going to get you back home to your parents. But you can invite co-teachers. So you can invite subs. If anybody has students that might have a para or somebody that needs to work with them, I don't know what your situation is, for that in the school, but if you have that and you want somebody else to be able to work with a student as well, you can invite them and they'll have the same type of engagement that you'll have on the instructor side. So they can do a little bit more. And of course, if you get student teachers or anybody like that. So you got options. This is how you can invite people in and get them connected to your board. There are animations. So there you go. It changes with every season. I thought that was really cute on the elementary side. I will tell you, I was in a high school and some of the students were just hanging out in the room after because I was working one-on-one with a professor. And they're like, that's awesome. And I was like, okay, good. All right, they like it too. I never know. You never know on the high school side. Like if they can be like, oh, I'm too old for that, or like, that's amazing. Things can really go either way. I don't know. It's just what happens. This is going to be your ink color. So just know, you can switch that up. We'll go into a dark blue. You can, again, see, you can have it switch where everything matches, or you can do ink color alone. That's just fine. This is my information. So if I wanted to record my board, you can do board recording in here. The one thing that I am going to ask, does everybody have a camera on the top of their board? No. Okay. If you don't have a camera, the board does not have an embedded microphone, so you're just going to want to make sure you connect something that has some sort of microphone. Our webcams have it. But even I have the $35 cheapos from Amazon, I can just plug it in. But you can, again, lock pages, lock the class if you want to do that. So just know you do have options there. Going through, you can lock objects. So you have total control on this platform for whatever it is that you may want. You also can send out instant polls. So if you want to send something out to your students, whatever it may be, it does not matter. You would just pick whoever it is. I'm going to send a poll. You can send links. Anytime you create a poll, it's going to save. All you have to do is put your question in, question mark, space, and then your answers all separated by a comma. And then it's going to pop up as those buttons, so whatever it may be. So the last one I did in this account was, what's your favorite animal? And the 4 options were dog, quokka, wombat, and sloth, which I guess are odd animal choices for people. But, a lot of people like the sloth right now. That's a popular one. But those would be the 4 buttons your students would click, whatever it is, and you're going to get all of that data. You can see who you sent that poll to. You can see when they responded, and you can see what their choice is. You can download that information, just like you can get it when you're using forums and stuff like that on Google. So it's going to be very similar to something that you're already comfortable doing. But you can go ahead and send that information out. Of course, you have settings. Go into settings. No matter where you are, go into settings. Usually about 80 to 90% of the questions I get on anything Newline, my first follow-up question, because you'll get that a lot, I'm like, follow-on question, have you gone into settings yet? And then I get crickets, and then I get a no. I'm like, let's go into settings together. Go into settings. A lot of the questions that people have, or if there's a feature that you want modified or personalized to you, you're going to see it in settings. You don't have to change anything, but know what your options are. Go around the block and meet the neighbors. So you can go in here. Of course, you can change languages and all that kind of great stuff. Your default size. You can change this up. I can make it an iPad size, so then my screen is going to shrink down a little bit. So that way, if my students have iPads, I know whatever I put in that workspace, they're not going to have to do a lot of scrolling. Everything is going to pop up right on their device. You can go through, you can change student languages. So again, thinking foreign language instructors, you can also layer this if you're somebody that likes to use Google Translate. So you can actually translate the entire platform if you want to be working in a foreign language and you want to have all your tools, everything else switch on over, which is great. And of course, you have more settings. So we'll do the pen and board color to match. I'll switch over. Make sure you save though. I get a lot of people that they went into settings, they changed things, and then they didn't save it. And so then the problem is they're like, why isn't this working? And we'll go through, because they're like, I went into settings. I did exactly what you said. I'm like, did you save it? Following question number 2. I don't know. Let's find out. And then usually, I didn't save it. So just make sure you save your settings. Along the right side here, this is going to be all of your stuff. So this is all of your flair, 39 pieces of flair. You want me to have 39 pieces of flair? Why didn't you tell me? Isn't the requirement 16? I always quote The Office. I don't know how many pieces of flair. Yeah, there's a few out there. Yeah, so if you're an Office fan, you know. You have gizmos. Gizmos are stickers. So I always say you gaze at gizmos and widgets wiggle, okay? So gizmos are stationary by default, but remember, you can animate anything. Widgets are going to be things that all have actual interaction and stuff like that. So you can go through in here. There are a lot of different options, okay? When it comes to like ASL, there's 3 different ASL alphabets in there. Obviously, it's going to be the same alphabet, but it's going to be pictures of a hand, a drawing of a hand, and then black and white. So you have lots of different options on everything that you're going to do. Refreshing here. There we go. If you want to add in, here's the currency. So all of the currencies. So again, foreign language or math, if you're working on currency, that's where that breakdown tool is going to come in. So I hit refresh. We'll see what happens. Somehow I'm losing faith in my internet connection a little bit here. I'm going to open it back up. We'll go back in. So now you can see the full login system here. For your gizmos, you're going to have, I would say, lots of options that kind of seem the same. You can embed a website and you can add a link. It's going to have 2 different options. So when you embed a website, the website itself is actually going to be embedded within the page. So you're going to have options there. If you go in and you add a link, that is going to be an external link. So if you click on the button, it's going to open up another browser page. So you do have options in whatever it is that you may want to do. Come on, little buddy. See, this is my ops unit that sometimes is a little shaky. It's had some problems in TSA before. It's gotten dropped a few times. I go through computers a lot. Our tech support loves me. But I will say our tech support folks are very, very nice. There we go. Start another board. But when you're going through, like I said, you can animate anything. On your board, no matter where you are or what you're doing, if you're on the panel side of the house, so that home screen, or if you're working in your computer, if you do a press and hold with your finger, it's the same thing as doing a right click with a mouse. Now, you can hook up a wireless mouse if you want to, and that's just fine, but just know you do not need one. So if I go through and I grab my angry face, let's find somebody who's happier. Come on. Actually, do we have our emojis? I don't want the angry face. You guys don't need somebody up here scowling at you. That would be terrible. Like everybody looks like they're wailing. Let's see here. See, like all the suspicious faces are suspicious. So there are thousands of stickers in here, by the way. So you're going to be able to find a lot of different ones. But I don't want to do patterns. We'll go into rewards. We'll let that switch over. What? We're having some network connection issues. We'll see what we get. We'll give it a minute. So in an ideal world, ironically enough, believe me or not, I haven't run into this issue before. But as you click things, they're just going to kind of layer on in the middle. Like the system imports it, so just know that. You have to actually choose where you want it to go. So let's try opening it again and see if we can get something. Come on. We'll see. If I need to switch over to my laptop, I can. I always bring a backup computer just in case. One thing that I really want to make sure folks know, though, is when you're working in all of the different tools, in the upper right, it's going to tell you what tool you're currently in. So if you want to move things around, you really do have to be in the move and resize. For folks that have worked in our native whiteboard, probably one of the biggest things that I kind of get feedback on is that people tell me the board kind of has a mind of its own. So if you're in write with fine pen or fingers, and all of a sudden, yeah, okay, so tap into you, it's switched, yeah. The infrared grid of our touch system is touchy. Like it's always looking at the footprint of whatever is touching the panel. So if you're using a thin point stylus, but then all of a sudden you like angle your hand and you break more of that infrared grid, it's going to be like, oh, you're not writing with a thin point anymore, you're writing with a thick point. The nice thing about Engage is that it kind of takes that factor out of it. So you have to tell it every time you want to switch a tool or what tool you want. You actually have to tell it what you want, which is nice. So it's not going to interpret for you, which is good. So if anybody out there has been having problems with that in the past, or you just have to make sure you're being more deliberate, it should pop up just fine. So you can choose whatever tool. It's not going to switch on you, which is kind of nice. For folks that are really used to having that instant object recognition, and so you've kind of learned the touch points, not so much of an issue. But for folks that are like, oh, it keeps switching on me, you're going to be really happy. So I always say just be very deliberate when you're working in Engage with whatever tools it is that you want to make sure you're using. So with that, just a little to do. We'll let it reload here. Oh, all right. That's all right. Well, I have a tendency to push all of our stuff. I'm the what could possibly go wrong gal, and I try and recreate as many potential things that could happen. So I have about 4 different Engage accounts that I'll go through and just, so there we go. Here's our people all layered up. And so you can see I can select one and move it over. See, look at it, they don't look happy. They're really happy to be, this one's happy to be here. There we go, we'll get the angry guy over to the side. But when it comes to things, of course, you can make it larger and smaller because it's move and resize. If I go into my selection tool, and I do a press and hold, again, same thing as doing a right click. You can see where you can animate anything. So you can rotate it so it'll start spinning. Move it, of course, it's going to move, and I'll show you that. If you animate it with color, what it's going to do is it's actually going to put like a neon border around the object, and it's just going to keep changing colors. So if there's something that you want to highlight, if there's something you want to emphasize for your students, say especially for the middle and high school, like you try and hand it over. Like you're like, all right, question for tomorrow. We've got it highlighted here, this diagram. Know the diagram. Question 4, you're going to see it. You're always going to get that one person that's like, no, she wouldn't really put it on there. She wouldn't make it that easy. And you're like, yes, know this diagram. That's where the animate color comes in handy. But if I wanted to move something, all I have to do is create the path of wherever I want it to move. So again, if you want to have, different parts coming together. So if you're working in science and biology and all that kind of stuff, so you're creating cells and doing things, you can go ahead and do that. If you're going to start grouping things together. But imagine having a bunch of things moving around on a page, like it will make you seasick after a little while. So remember, under tools, this is where you can pause your animations, so they will stop. So I say it's important to know. One thing isn't too bad, but if you have 5, 6, 7, 8 things moving around, trying to talk and your students are like this, and then somebody's like starting to get a little queasy and they're doing the one of those. But yes, so you can animate anything. I'll show you the color option, so it'll just kind of keep changing. But you can get the little box around it should you want to do that. So everything in here, it has a heart, no matter where you're at. Under gizmos, for your stickers, the first category is favorites. So if you tap the heart for anything, it's going to go into your favorites category. Because again, there's thousands of pictures in here. There are some that you're probably never going to use, and there's some that you're going to use a lot. Favorite the ones that tie into your curriculum, and they're going to go into your favorites category. Again, you can go into widgets, and these are all going to be things. Let me close and reopen. It doesn't matter which one that you pull up. They'll all kind of go back and forth. But for widgets, these are all things that have kind of natural movement within them. So like I talked about links, you can embed YouTube videos, which is really handy. You can do something called factory form, which is creating like little bubble questionnaires. So you can do that. So if you're doing slides, you could have 5 slides, and then you could do a knowledge check, something like that. You can create a memory game, I'll say, and that works great for any subject, any grade. So you can do pictures on one side, words, matching, whatever it may be. So you could have, different bonds, and then what kind of bond, and can they bring them together? So you have the option of doing all of those different types of things. So that's going to be your factory form for matching. But everything in here, like I said, essentially moves. The shade. I get a lot of questions. People want to know if there is a shade. Yes, there is a screen shade. So just know that that's in there. Again, same thing. If you tap the heart, it's going to go up to the top. Music teachers, there is a piano and there's a xylophone in here. I know you guys always do do you guys do the clapping thing where you have a clap? Okay. And then everybody kind of follows suit? Yeah. I don't know why I never thought about that. I did work with a kindergarten teacher one time, though, that would go, shh, shh, shh. The only voices I should hear are the ones in my head. And I thought that was pretty creative. She was made for kindergarten, just to throw that out there. Sometimes you meet people and you're like, you're exactly where God wants you to be. And other people are like, huh, okay. But yep, she was exactly where she needed to be. And she was fantastic. You do have a couple of different spinner options in here. So if you do spinner options with student names, anybody that is logged into your lesson will automatically get added to the students with spinner names. Now, I have had folks that are like, well, what happens if sometimes I have students that are going to be gone one day or whatever it may be? You can actually go in, and if you open the regular spinner, you can customize that for anything. So if you're doing probability, if you wanted to have it be fruit, it does not matter. And then you can save that as an object of your own. So if you add any of this and you modify it, if there's something that you want, you can, of course, do a long, let me go here. You can add it. See, this is how you can personalize it. Just choose what you want, which is fine. But you can add anything to your objects. So when you long press items, it'll give the option to add to your objects. Anything that you add to your objects will be here. So you can have backgrounds if you want different types of paper, if you want different icons. If I was to open up a second browser window, so I could minimize this one, or not necessarily minimize it, but maybe I just want to make it smaller. I could have another browser window open. I'm just going to have them side by side. And I could actually drag and drop from one browser into the other. So if there's any images, you can bring GIFs over, all of those different types of things. So you can just add stuff, I'll say, pretty quickly on the fly. But if there's a different diagram or something that you want and you know where it is online, or you're just searching for different types of things, just drag and drop it, right-click it, and save it to your objects, and then it's always going to be available for you. So just know that you do have that ability. So that is in there, and you can do that with anything that you create or anything that you bring in. You can add it to your objects. The bottom of the panel, or the bottom of the Engage kind of platform here, again, thumbnail view, we went in there. Grid view, this is where you're going to be able to, see everybody who's logged in. And you can actually go into their pages. You do have grid settings, so if you want to just have one person highlighted at a time, you can do that, or just have 2 students highlighted, but you can go into any of your student boards. You can work with a student privately in their board. You can add rewards. Again, you can go into the manual grading and red ink it up if you wanted to do that, but you can go ahead and work with any of your students, which is fine. We'll go back into single view. And then manage boards is where you're going to find your board library. So any board that you create is going to be under your manage boards. By default, the boards have an expiration date set for 30 days or a month after you create them. Do not panic. It is a very forgiving system. This is part of the reason why I say name your boards, because if you have a bunch of boards that you just want to trash, it makes it very easy for you to know what ones, and you don't have to go into all of them. But as you go into manage boards, you're going to see like a little time clock, and it'll give you a date. If you hit the clock, that expiration date just goes away. It's literally that easy. You're going to see your board information, so the name of your board, the date and time it was created. Then you're going to have a big break, and then you're going to see the clock, you're going to see an eye, and then you're going to see a trash can. The eye, if you tap that, that's how you can get in and see any of your boards. So it'll just transfer you into that board. If you want to delete a board, of course, hit the trash can, but don't panic, because then you have to confirm your deletion on the other side of the screen. I know there's probably some people out here that are overzealous clickers. And if you are, you know it. There's no shame. It's okay. It's usually those of us that grew up in dial-up, where you had literally had to click something a million times, hoping that one would take, and then 5 hours later you have like 800 clicky windows. But if you are an overzealous clicker, you're not accidentally going to delete any of your boards. Like, you have to be incredibly deliberate, and you do have to go to both sides. You can't double click the trash can and away it goes. You have to confirm it on the other side. So just know that. And that makes it a little bit easier. In here, you're also going to see the community boards option. And so that's where anything that's shared in the community will be. So just know that's kind of where you have stuff in general. That is, I will say, a slightly convoluted resetting option looking at Newline Engage. Are we okay? I say it's not anything crazy. It's just a matter of knowing, one, where to go. Okay, but the icons are going to be the same. Pen's a pen, lasso's a lasso. So you don't have to learn any new icons. And just knowing what stickers and things like that you may want to use, but know you're never limited. You can always bring other types of things in. I also said, if you already have content in Google, that don't reinvent the wheel. For those that already have a panel and you are annotating in something in Google, how are you annotating? Huh? There's not a wrong answer. I'm just curious. Are you using the toolbar on the side? Yeah. Okay. Well, I heard that. Okay. So, for those who don't know, you do have these lovely toolbars. They're very attractive, and they will follow you everywhere. The third icon down is your onboard annotation tool. If you tap that, your whiteboarding tools are going to come up down below, and you can take notes over anything at any point in time. So there you go. There are your notes. The problem with this is that it's like a giant transparency. Again, for those that may not have grown up in the days of transparency and overhead projectors, those were amazing. Like, that was a game changer, going from the blackboard where everybody's like all dusty and nasty, you look like you've been in a mine all day, to having overhead projectors. Those were smooth and cool. But unfortunately or unfortunately, this is like throwing a transparency over your panel. It's awesome because it's going to work. It's going to work every time. You don't have to worry about it. It is your fail-safe. But the problem is if I wanted to scroll on this page, wah, 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 yeah, not so handy. So all I would have to do is close my annotations, and boop, I get the screenshot, and now I can scroll, and then I can hit it again, and then I can write again. Nobody has time for that. Let's make your life easier. All right. Right? I know. Nobody's got time. No time for that. You don't even have time to go to the bathroom during the day. You don't have time to be doing that. So 2 things that will make your life better. When you're working on just general web pages, there is a Chrome extension called PageMarker. If you don't already use PageMarker, it's very handy. So it's just this little red pen. You will see that you're going to have this nice little toolbar that pops up. You can change the color, but I can grab my mouse and you can see that it sticks to the web page. Yes, don't reinvent the wheel. This is why I say don't reinvent the wheel. Like, know your end game and you're going to be in great shape. PageMarker is very simple. All you have to do is download it from the Chrome or Edge. It works on both, and there you go. There's no login or anything like that. The only downfall with PageMarker is it doesn't write on Google. Naturally, like that would be too simple. But there's something else. So I'm going to go ahead and close. And you do have options in here, of course. You have text boxes and lines and all that kind of stuff. But I'm going to close my PageMarker, and I'm going to go into my Google Drive. There is another Chrome extension. And this one's just on Chrome, but it's called annotate.net. Annotate.net solves the problem of being able to annotate in your slides. So it is a rectangular box with a blue arrow that is pointing down. So if I go there, this one you do have to create like a login. Very simple, it's free, you don't have to pay for it, so just know that. But I can show my annotation toolbar. Okay, not a problem. I can go into, I'll say a slides, whatever it may be. And if I want to go into my slideshow, I can do so. And as it switches over, now I have a toolbar that follows me. Yeah, so much easier. Yeah. All right, so now I can go ahead and I can annotate very easily on my slides. I can grab my mouse tool and I can switch slides, and there are my annotations. Right? Yes. Don't reinvent the wheel. Make it easier. Annotate.net for Google Slides, PageMarker for literally everything else. I wish they could just make a little baby and like put it all together. But yeah, so those would be the 2 Chrome extensions that I would highly, highly recommend to make your life better. You can operate these, of course, from your computer. The one thing I'm going to tell you is I'm going to just go back to the home screen of the panel. Your browser here is running off of the Android brain of your panel. The people that invented extensions were like, why would anybody on a mobile device need an extension because it's so small? Not thinking that, Android brain mobile devices were going to get this big. So you're not going to access those from the browser on the home screen. It's like doesn't work. It's just not even in the realm of possibilities at this time. So it's just something that's not compatible with the people who developed the extensions. So if you want to use those extensions, you're just going to want to be working from your computer because it needs to be a full browser. So that's the only thing that I will tell you on that, which is kind of handy to know. But you have the option to keep or discard, so I'm going to discard my annotations. PageMarker, annotate.net. I will send those direct links as well, but makes it so much easier. By all means, yes, you do have our onboard annotation tool, so if something crazy is going on, maybe your computer has a whoopsie, like knock on wood, your computers will be fine. But maybe you had a really good spring break, and you're like, this is amazing, I'm ready to go back, I'm so relaxed, and you show up and you're like, I forgot my computer. You could log in, it happens, you could log into your browser and still access your stuff, and then you could still annotate by using the side toolbar. But definitely I'll say when you're working from your computer, it just gives you a couple of little bonuses that are available there. So I wanted to definitely say that. Because I try and watch eyeballs. When it comes to these onboard annotation tools, do you guys know you can shut the screenshots off? All right, yeah, okay. So I say let's just talk about that one real quick. So when you are using the onboard annotation tool, you have options. Okay, so everybody saw that screenshot that got taken. Well, if we look down on the bottom right, we're going to see our annotation settings. If I tap that, I'm actually going to turn off the action hint so you guys don't get that blue box anymore. But auto screenshot, yeah, you can turn that off. It's great the first time. You don't need it a year later. You got it. You're like, I don't need the action hint. I know what I'm doing. Yeah, so just turn off your action hint. That's just fine. Your auto screenshot down here, though, that's where you can turn that screenshot on and off. If you love it, by all means, keep it on. But if you're like, I don't really need a screenshot every time, then you can go ahead and toggle it off. Know that the screenshots, yeah, they do go into the file viewer. They'll be in your pictures. They only save for 30 days. So if your fear is like, I'm going to take up all the brain, on the panel, after 30 days, those pictures are going to delete themselves. So just know the panel does clean itself up, so you don't have to worry about that. If you are using these, because I'll say every once in a while, this is just kind of a good tip to know, you're using your annotations. You could be in the browser, you could be in an app, you could be anywhere, and you're making notes, and you're like, all right, does everybody get this? And you look out into the crowd, and it's skeptical eyes. Somebody in the back is crying. Somebody up front is sweating. And you're like, we are not getting this. This is going poorly. So we're going to try again, but sometimes you don't want to abandon all of the work that you've done. There's a little camera. You can actually take a manual screenshot whenever you want to, and you can import it into the whiteboard. And so it will bring your screenshot into the whiteboard, and then you can keep going. So just know that you have that ability as well. So it's just something, not everybody kind of touches everything and goes to everything. So I do like to point that out. So you got options there, is one of the biggest things. So, good. We all know that we can instantly erase with our hand too, right? Okay. For some odd reason, I've gone to a lot of places and they're like, what? I'm like, yes, just erase. I say, that's why I have this though. If you're like a hand lotion person and you keep greasing up your panel, this works great as an eraser too, by the way. So I'll say 2.5 inches seems to be the sweet spot for erasers. Yeah, that's why I have all my stuff in here, yeah. But it's because I lose things, because I throw them. I'm an overzealous talker sometimes. But I do catch my head on my car every once in a while because I forget they're up there. And that's embarrassing because people have seen me do that. I just fall out. But anyways, yes. So if you are in the whiteboard and you do need to erase anything, I'll say you can use just about anything and you'll be in good shape. But that works just fine. So it cleans as you go. So that's why I like those. But yeah, you can get creative with whatever it is that you want. I have lightsabers. I have Harry Potter wands. I have all sorts of crazy stuff. So with that, we've gone all over Engage. Couple of good tips and tricks for your browser that you're going to use where all of your content is. I am going to stop talking and see if there are any questions or things that you guys have going on, especially for folks that already have panels. If you're like, oh my goodness, this is driving me nuts. Is there a fix for this? Or folks that may be getting panels if there's something that you're concerned about that you want to ask about. So I'll open it up for questions. You guys have had them for a little while, so I know you're probably pretty confident. Yeah. Yes. So you can. That's just going to be a change in your settings. The other option you have too is I always say that one person who always will go and switch it, then it's going to be like that one time where you needed something that's going to already have erased. So that's why I always say be careful what you wish for. You just might get it. But you can go into pictures. And if you wanted to just kind of delete a dump at the end of the week, so if you had a bunch, because it saves all of your whiteboard pages as well. If you just do a press and hold 1, 2, you can see it outlines in blue. Then I can tap here and I could just keep tapping. And so I can delete a whole grouping at once and just get rid of them. So I have a lot of folks that will prefer to do that because, like I said, it's always that one time when you change it in settings. Then you're going to get the student on Monday that's like, the thing that you put on the board last week, I forgot to copy down. And you're like, oh my goodness, and it's gone. So you can, in settings, yes. That's why I say go into settings and go around the block. You can go ahead and change that if you want to. Yeah. No, you're fine. It might be in admin settings now because they just switched everything. I think it's in admin settings. Oh, I'm like, why is this not switching? I'm in the guest one, that's why. I don't have the option. And the guest, I was like, something is wrong. I was like, I should have more options than that. In the profile, just scroll down. I'll send it with the follow-up information on where to change that. So you got it. Yep, not a problem. Other questions for folks or things that you want to know if the panel can do or not do. And I will say we take suggestions in general. So if you have something that you want to happen, let us know. Yeah.
I noticed that there's the interface with Google Drive.
I'm so sorry. Hold on just one second.
Microphone.
Oh.
Thank you. How about
Oh,
that?
listen to
Okay,
that.
so I noticed that there was the interface with Google Drive through Engage,
Yes.
and you could load files.
Yes.
Is there a way that you can just access your Google Drive without the Newline? I mean, sorry, without using your computer, just straight from your operating system?
There is.
Okay, awesome.
You have options.
Thank you. I don't have one yet, so if you could just show me,
Yes.
right? Thank you
All right.
so much.
So I'll say the two easiest ways to access your, well, there's three, but we'll start with two. So through your browser, just log in. Okay, so that's easy enough. You just go to Google, log in, not a problem. The other option you have is under apps. We're going to go back into the Newline App Store. And I forgot, I can't download in the guest app, but I can show you where it is. I'm going to go ahead and just search for the G drive. And I can do that, and it's going to pop up in here. And you can actually download the Google Drive as an app to your home screen. And when you log in and when you open things from your Google Drive from the app, it will open natively in slides and sheets and docs and all those different types of things. Now, the one thing I'm going to tell you is this is an Android operating system. It is a mobile brain. So the drag and drop feature in slides technically was not developed with a mobile brain in mind. It was full computer brain. So if you open up your slides and you're like, oh, I'm just going to drag and drop and do, it's not going to happen. Now, I will tell you, I have gotten it to work. Right now, I'm the only trainer that gets it to work. And I'll do a long press, down, and then over. That's like the technique. But it's not seamless. I'm currently working to try and find a workaround to see if I can get it to be, if I can beat the system on it and make it a little bit more user-friendly. But if you just needed to pull something up, like you needed to pull up slides to be able to read them or whatever, you'll be absolutely 100% okay. The other option you have, just in general, don't discount. In the whiteboard, you do have the option. You can actually scan into your Google Drive here as well. So if you're doing anything on the native whiteboard, you do have the option. You can actually import PDF documents if you have any worksheets saved, and you can send things back and forth. There's a little QR code to export, and you can send it straight to your drive, attach it to a classroom assignment, attach it to an email. So if like a student forgot what was going on, or maybe somebody was out of class for the day, if it was the first period and, students like, by the time they get home to do their homework, like, I can kiss this goodbye, it's just not gonna happen. You could attach, hey, this is how we did it in class today, don't forget, and you could attach it. Now, of course, if you're gonna do all that through Jamboard, and that's your QR code to sign in, through the browser, you could just do it there. So you got options. Yep, browser and app would be my top two, though. Yep, other questions? Yeah. So, do you want single sign-on, or do you want it more than 6 digits? Okay, I know that has come up a little bit. Some of the things, just so you know, like that they've looked at or that have been suggested, like if it was like a remote app, that you could do it, how you can sign into the Google Drive remotely here. That's something that has come up. So if you would have something that you would prefer before they decide, let me know.
I think a QR code where you scan it with your phone would be amazing.
Okay, I agree with you. That would be my pick, but
That's what I recommend.
yeah. Truly, when I say let us know your suggestions, like we own the factory where our products are developed. So we have autonomy from start to finish. So whatever it may be, every once in a while you may have noticed like you get a firmware update. Those firmware updates are based on, like obviously if we have to stay compatible if like Windows changes or something. But new features are released in our firmware updates. So like the Newline Classroom Tools, that was a firmware update based on faculty recommendations. The App Store was another one, or if new apps are going in and stuff like that. Please do not be shy. I always say I'd rather have your dreams come true than somebody else from down the lane. And we only know what people want based on being the squeaky wheel. So if it's a matter of like, get like a letter writing campaign, and every week somebody from here is going to email me like, this is what we want to see. Because then I can say every week to tech support or development team, hey, this is what we want to see. Because I talk to them every week. Yeah.
And just a consensus amongst our table. One more thing.
Yeah, no, you're good.
The freeze screen option, example, if I need to go back, there's no freeze screen. Whereas on a traditional projector, you can freeze the screen. You can't freeze it. Like if I'm screen sharing or using a different app, there's no option except for closing out of the app, getting back in. Is there an option?
There's an option.
Woohoo!
So you can flick up from the bottom, and there's the little freeze. So that will freeze it. So you can do it from the remote. You can do it from the 2-finger flick up. So if you didn't know, if you take 2 fingers, you can flick up from the bottom of the panel, and you get your hidden swipey menu. So you can, so you can freeze your screen. Now the one thing I'm going to tell you, and this is what I told them is my only thing about this, is if you touch the screen, you can unfreeze it. So just know that. So they're looking at doing a combination freeze and lock. But yes, you can freeze the screen. Yep, remote or 2-finger swipe up. Some people have broken flickers. Not everybody can do the flick. So if you look over at the bottom right of the panel, there's like a 3 pancake menu. That will also get that quick settings menu. If I hit the little 3 pancakes, it'll pop up as well. And you got options. And all your remote controls are interchangeable too. So just know that. You're very welcome.
Thank you.
Other questions from folks? Yeah.
Not to like chime in on how to fix this. Or
No, you're good.
No, this was actually. Oh, I was like, oh, hello. So the touch to unfreeze is very obviously sensitive.
Yes.
Is there a possibility in the future that maybe like you could hold it down for like 3 seconds to unfreeze? Just because if you do move and you accidentally swipe the screen, sometimes whatever you're mirroring is not what you intend to mirror.
Right. Oh, yeah. No, you're open your email and be like, you're working on email here, but you have something else for the students. And then all of a sudden, yes. So there is, and I'll get with tech support, there is a touch override, and I will get you guys that information. But it's not like a button. You have to like hold down something for a certain amount of time, but I'll get that for you. I'll get the touch override and the undo for that. That was the problem. If you do a touch override, your touch goes away. You're going to want that to come back. So I'll get both for you. But yes. On our last panel, so for this panel, something that was new for the Q series was profiles. So people wanted their own profiles so you could get logged in and have your stuff. You don't have to keep logging in. I always say this is like, be careful what you wish for type of a deal. But with that, on the old panel, you had a freeze button and then you had a screen lock. So you could hit the freeze and then you could hit the screen lock, which would get rid of the touch. And then you just hit screen lock again from the remote and touch would come back. Well, here, if you hit screen lock, it goes to that home screen. And it goes back to the lock screen. So they're doing a workaround right now to kind of add in those functions, but I will get the override. There is a manual override for right now. Yep. Yeah. That's how I always say, be aware if you just use freeze on its own, that as soon as you touch the screen, it'll come undone. So, yeah. Other questions, comments, things you want me to bring back?
Can you do a split screen on the web browser?
Yep, so if you do from the 2 flick up menu, the quick settings menu, there is a split screen option. And all of your applications, you just have to scroll over left and right will be in here. So if I wanted to just grab the browser and I could grab, so there's not a ton on the guest profile, but I could do the whiteboard in the browser. Or I could do, anything else in the browser. I could have engage in the browser, like whatever it is that you may want. Yep. Do it again? Sure. All right. So from the quick settings menu, so 2-finger flick up or the 3 little pancakes. In here, on the bottom, you're going to see something that says split screen. Hit split screen. And then you can scroll left and right in order to get the apps that you want. So everything that you have downloaded to your profile on your panel will appear here. So like Visualizer, if you had a dock camera plugged in, like you could pull from there and you could have, the web browser, whatever you want. But you just have to click on one. The first one you click is going to go on the left side. The second one you click, there's not going to be a feed here, but that would be the Visualizer, is going to be on the right side. You do have options down below. You can give one more real estate than the other. and then you're going to see the little X to close out, and if I hit the X to close out, then they're going to go away. So, yeah. Yes. Yes.
Come out of the screen. But no matter how many times I've tried, the setting does not pop up from my computer to make the sound come out of the screen when I screen share. I don't know why.
Are you using the app?
I have tried every way I can imagine.
And are you on a Mac or a Windows computer?
Mac.
Okay. So this is the joy of Mac. So I'm a Mac person. Now, is everybody in here a Mac person? No.
Our school uses Macs.
Okay.
With some
I'm
exceptions.
going to guess that the tech folks are the ones saying no. But I will tell you, one of our VPs of development and support is a Mac person, which is great because he's, I'll say, very sensitive to some of the challenges that Mac has within the touch world. Apple AirPlay, and your sound will come out. So you can, if you're on the same network as the panel, you can just screen mirror Apple AirPlay straight up and do it that way.
I will look into that. Thank you.
Do you need a how-to?
Yes.
Okay.
Show.
All right. I didn't bring my Mac with me.
That's okay. I will figure it out.
I can come over though and show you when we're done.
Oh no, we can't do AirPlay. Is there another workaround? Can we make that work?
The best thing that I would tell you then, honestly, would be if you have a Bluetooth speaker that you'd want to put up front. They're working on a workaround right now. It's something with Mac. And so they just have to kind of change the back end of the app and how the system works. But the reason why they have that is like iTunes and things like that. So let's say I wanted to go in and I feel bad. The only movie that I know is coming out is the Barbie movie with Margot Robbie. But I keep thinking of Toy Story, and they had the fashion show, and I'm like, this is going to be an amazing movie. So that's why I'm so excited. I don't know if they're going to have a fashion show. I'll be so disappointed if they don't. But if I went in and maybe I pre-purchased the movie through iTunes on my computer, and I went to screen share, if I could push up both the video and the sound, that would fall into the whole, pirating of movies and things like that. So it's a legality, and that's why you get that weird block. It's something that's built into their hardware and firmware. So they're working on a workaround that will be user-friendly and not breaking anything that they shouldn't break. Is that a nice, easy way of saying that? Okay, so that is why you run into that. It's because of all of those little pirating settings built in because of video content. So that's why. Yeah, but I do have some folks, they'll just put a little Bluetooth speaker up front and then have the speaker connected to their computer. Then they'll go through the app and then just use the speaker as that. Yep. Good question, though. And I know that's something they're working on. Yeah, because you're not the only one. Yeah. Other questions, things that you want me to bring back to the team on stuff that you guys want to see, especially, for folks that are using it. So I'll tell him anything, yeah.
You talked about the lag on the screen, so the best way to avoid that, if it's not hardwired, is go through the browser.
Yeah, so when you're getting your computer connected, I always say the number one thing is if you hardwire your computer, you're going to have the best user experience. That's just kind of the way it goes. With that, then kind of moving down the line, anytime that you're going through screen sharing, when you go through the URL or the app, that's a cloud-based application, which means your information goes from your computer, it goes up to the cloud, and then down to the panel. So you do get that delay and you get that lag. I'll say it's fine just depending on your bandwidth and your internet. It's fine for a day or a week if you have something going on with your computer, but that can really wear on you day in and day out. That would drive me nuts. So you do have options of going in through the browser. Of course, you can, pull things up, but if you're doing movie content, that's where you're not going to want to lag. So that's where you have to choose. So if I wanted to have a YouTube video queued up, that's usually where I leverage my browser. So in general, I always say take a divide and conquer approach to your panel. So whatever your favorite source is here, set your favorite source for your computer, wherever you're going to have your computer hardwired in, wherever that's going to be. So I'm just going to, as an example, I usually use the front Type-C port. That's usually where I have my computer plugged in. So I would have my front Type-C as my favorite source. That's where I'm going to keep my curriculum. I don't want to reinvent the wheel. But then I can go, because usually I'll say the browser option is usually right here. I could go into the browser and I could have videos queued up in YouTube or somewhere else if I wanted to do that. Now, If somebody had a subscription to Disney Plus, or you have the faculty subscription to Netflix for the documentaries, you're probably going to want to be accessing that stuff from your computer. Just in general, you're not, that's usually where I see that getting used. However, in the App Store, you can find Disney Plus and you can find, Netflix and all those other things. And if I'm opening up cans of worms from admin, just throw a tomato at me. But you do have that ability. So depending on where your content is that you want to access, you do have options. But yes, directly from the browser, directly from an app or a hardwired computer is going to give you the best user experience. When you are screen sharing, especially if you're going through the URL or the app being cloud-based, you are going to get a delay. You can run into different things from a sound perspective, which was, they had a change in Mac. So that's why they're kind of playing catch up on different things. But yeah.
Because not only you're talking about the videos have a delay, but even PowerPoints.
Yes, because it's got to go up and down, up and down. So you already have your content on your computer. Keep it on your computer, hardwire your computer, and move from there. You do have the option if you wanted to, especially if you're a Microsoft guy. A lot of folks will go into the App Store and actually download Edge, just because that's kind of the Microsoft browser. And you can log into your OneDrive account through the browser and access all of that. So you could access your PowerPoints, everything directly from there, and then you're going to have a pretty seamless experience if you wanted to do that. You do have the option, you can also, the panel comes with a free Office reader. So if you had something on a thumb drive even, you could open it up and go from there if you wanted to. Totally up to you. You do have options. But browser is probably the number one for PowerPoint, people bringing it in, if they don't have their computer directly hooked up to the panel. But that's just the nature of any cloud-based application. It's got to go up and down. And I'll say it's going to be based on the bandwidth of your school. So whatever network you're hooked up to, you have so much bandwidth. I'll say some networks, you have a ton, it's not an issue. Like I go into schools and like, we have like 0 delay. If it's like a fraction of a second, they're like, we don't even notice. And then I've been in other schools that are like, when COVID happened, we had to get internet. We didn't have it before then. Yeah, oh yeah, I've seen it all, let me tell you. And so they just have different experiences. So it is gonna be based on the bandwidth of whatever your internet provider is. I don't know what your situation is, if it's really good, if it's not so good. I'll say I'm in Miami. I thought it was going to be great. Miami's got a shaky internet grid. I don't know how else to describe it. It's questionable at best sometimes. Some days are great. Other days I'm like, oh, this is something new and exciting. Apparently it's a thing. I had to ask our vet. They're like, yeah, it doesn't matter. It'll just go down. I'm like, okay, you roll with it. But yeah, you can kind of pick your poison in terms of whatever browser you want to use. So you're not stuck with just Chromium. You could go ahead and do Edge if you're going to be a Microsoft user. So yeah, other questions? Yeah. Okay. And do everything.
Back out again. It takes me 3 times to stay logged in.
For screen sharing?
For browsing, or using, or I was like, why did it get so loud? Or even if I'm trying to open my drive, if I go to the browser and try to open my drive, I'll get almost all the way in and it knocks me back out, and then I have to go back in again. And sometimes it takes 3 times before I can stay in, no matter which room I'm in.
Do you get an error message?
No, it just knocks me out, and then I have to start again.
I say it's easier to take a screen capture if you get an error message versus it just knocking you out. So that would, I'll say, and I do get this question a lot, like just, when do we talk to you? When do we talk to tech support? So it sounds like it's some sort of network connection issue. I don't have that kind of power. I can sing you a song. I can virtually hold your hand. I can offer you moral support. I don't have the power to change that. However, that's a really good example of if you let me know that, I can open up a support ticket on your behalf and let our tech support know that this is happening, and then they can work with you directly to be like, is it a connection between the panel and the network? Is it something on the network? They can get into those nooks and crannies that I can't see. And you probably don't want me in those nooks and crannies anyways, like that wouldn't save you. And I'm happy to do that. But that's something definitely, and on our website, like we have a support tab on the bottom, it just says contact support. You can call them. And you are talking to Newline support at our corporate office. You're going to say you're probably going to talk to Mario. I feel like everybody talks to Mario. I think he's cloned himself. But everybody is there. You can do a ticket online and just enter in your information, or you can email them. But number one thing, if it is something, unfortunately, that one, unfortunately, it's happening. And then second unfortunate is not an error message. If you get a weird ding-dong message, take a picture because it will never replicate when you get somebody on the horn. Like it'll just work fine. It's like if you go to the doctor and your elbow is locking and then you finally get seen and you're like, yeah, it's been locking. And then like the whole time you're there, it moves great. You get out into the parking lot and it seizes up. It's just what happens. So if you do get a ding-dong message, please take a picture because it's never going to happen when you get somebody on the horn. Like it's terrible. I don't know why. It's just, one of those things. So, yep. Other questions, things that you guys want me to take back or throw out there? Things that you want to see happen. Can I turn on the camera? Oh. Yep. So if you are screen sharing and you want to access, so it depends on how you have stuff hooked up. It's kind of where it comes down to. So when you're hardwired in, these are pass-through ports. So this is a pass-through port. Your ports up here are pass-through ports. So if you have something plugged in, it's going to go into your computer as well. So if you are screen sharing, let me see if we can add that to something so that way you can go through here because it's not a direct connection.
Yeah, we can play with it in just a minute because we can try it. We have a teacher or two that teaches from a Google Meet. So it's nice to see how the camera's used, but we can do that.
But like if you were pulling up from something directly, yeah, you absolutely can. Yeah.
Any other general questions?
Yeah.
All right, we do have Kate here until 3:30, so if you want to stay and come up and try anything and pick her brain, I know I heard a lot of ahas for some things that maybe we have shown before, but you just didn't realize was in there. I sent an exit ticket. If you do that now, because I'm going to do a raffle, you don't have to be here to win, but I'm going to do it and pick it from the ones that are entered right now. So we have 2 remotes that you can use to enter. Okay, so I won't pick them yet, but it is our Wi-Fi. Yes. Yes, no problem. I will wait. But anyways, fill out your exit ticket for your CEUs. And then, like I said, I have a couple remotes. I have some other little trinkets to raffle off, so I'll be delivering those to you. All right? But if you'd like to stay, come up closer if you have more questions or you want to try something on the panel. Thank you, Kate. And yes, this was recorded, so I'll be sharing it out with a couple highlights of things that she shared, and whatever she follows up with me, I'll be sending it out to everyone.